about the go-to-market strategy. So again, welcome everybody to the new episode of Full Funnel B2B Marketing Podcast. Today, I'm joining forces with my co-founder Vlad, and we are going to chat about ROI taxes, linear mindset when planning go-to-market strategy, and the top challenges and the root reasons of these challenges we noticed when talked to B2B companies from our trenches community. So I probably spoke to around 50 companies approximately, and we made a document with all the challenges and the root reasons. I was asking questions: why do you think these challenges occur? So what are the root reasons? So I believe these insights would be really helpful for everyone, so you could leverage them. And let's kick it off. Vlad, thanks a lot for joining me.
I'm super happy to be here and discuss probably one of the most important topics, I think, out there, and one that is often very often missed.
I believe we can start with me sharing the screen, and let's talk about the ROI taxes, because I believe, first of all, we need to explain the concept and then talk about the challenges that we have identified and basically how we grouped them. So that could be really insightful, right? So what are the ROI taxes?
So basically, in a lot of companies, a lot of B2B companies, marketing is perceived as a lot of effort for little results. And by that, I mean, there are campaigns that are being run, there may be some MQLs or leads that are being generated, but the actual impact on revenue, on sales qualified leads is limited. And that's what I mean. So a lot of effort for little results. And the question that we asked ourselves before we started this research was why? Like, why is that happening, right? And what the conclusion that we came up with here is that you have a number of common mistakes. Maybe you can consider them, missing pieces of the puzzle, or maybe you can consider them like leaks in your B2B marketing funnel that are causing a number of challenges. And the reason why we call those ROI taxes is because forever activity, forever campaign, any campaign that you run, you keep paying those taxes. It keeps underperforming, right? So you have to work extra hard to win each deal. You have to do you're getting low response rates, you're getting ads with you're getting low quality leads, your ads are not converting to opportunities, etc. So you're seeing how with each action that you take, you're losing a lot of opportunities in there. And that's why we think of them as ROI taxes, because you're gonna keep paying them until you fix those root problems. Was that clear?
Oh, for me, absolutely. Guys, what about you? Type in a Zoom chat if it was clear.
Yeah, it's a central topic here, a central concept. So I just want to make sure that everybody is kind of following on here, and we're just continue chatting and diving more deep into this into the different taxes, if you like.
Yeah, and we have to access, right? So we have common mistakes and common challenges. So basically, Vlad grouped them, all our replies, right? Everything that we collected, we grouped them in these challenges. While Vlad, you can talk, let's define these core groups of challenges, and I will find the exact replies that guys shared with us. So I believe it would be really nice to share the top challenges companies are facing, right?
No, absolutely. So let's talk about it. So the first challenge, so Andrei spoke about this. So we spoke to, at that point, probably to I think it was like 100 B2B marketers and execs. And one of the challenges that was coming over and over again was low response rates to outreach campaigns. And I really I remember like one of the ways that people talked about it, one of the people who participated in the research said, it is impossible, it's next to impossible to get any kind of attention amidst the flood of COVID-driven desperate marketing attempts by everybody. And that has to do with, on the one hand, with the outreach campaigns, but I'm sure a lot of people have been experiencing that also with difficulty in getting their content seen, etc. But coming back to this low response, it's because if you look at it, not because, but like what's happening is that a lot of people have jumped on the automation train. A lot of people have read the same blog posts with, you know, the best templates and sequences or what have you. And of course, the prospects got smart very quickly. You know, we don't want to waste our time. Everybody has experienced this, and we have started ignoring these messages. And I think this is no surprise to anybody who is around this call, right?
But I would love to mention two more things. For years, to be honest, I was thinking about them, but I didn't treat these two reasons or two challenges as the root problems, and they are not so obvious. The first one is the lack of marketing background. You know, probably all of you know this well-known gurus on LinkedIn talking, get out from company where CEO doesn't get marketing. But let's be honest, B2B marketing is not taught at schools and universities, right? So lots of executives simply don't have this background. And that's the goal. That's why somehow they built a business, they built a company, right? Somehow they grew to this level, if we are not talking about the early stage startups. So somehow they understand marketing. Otherwise, they closed that company many years ago, right? So the reason why they are hiring marketing people and sales people is that they want to grow this business. They want to scale revenue, right? But they don't know how to do it. And that's the goal of marketing and sales people, to help these executives. Next one is that most of them understand sales well, because it's pretty simple, right? I have a product, I need to find somebody to sell it, and basically I need to present it the right way, persuade this person to buy, and that's it. So that's why most of them have linear mindset. They don't understand all these fancy terms like demand generation, go-to-market strategy, nurturing, education, inbound, PR. We as marketers, that's our problem. In our marketing circle, we can call it whatever we want because we are on the same line. But with executives and sales, we are not at the same line. That's for sure. Just believe me. Just find 10 different executives and ask how do they understand demand generation or account-based marketing or lead nurturing or inbound or whatever, and you'll hear 10 different replies. That's the first problem. And because of this, they have linear mindset. They tend to think, okay, so here's my market, right? Let's pretend 100 companies. I completely understand that I won't be able to sell to all 100 companies because there is competition, there is unformed demand, etc. So for me, it's absolutely fine if I will sell to 10 companies. So 10 companies, let's say 100K revenue, so I should be at 1 million in annual recurring revenue. So that's the target for sales, right? It's just that mindset. And that's why all these companies have these problems and basically facing the mistakes Vlad mentioned. Now, I would like to share with you a research I have done and some answers that I have collected. So it probably will clarify the groups of mistakes and challenges, right? So one of them is, look, so the challenge, right? Deciding between stakeholders. There are so many variables and file data can help you a lot. It doesn't tell the full story. So it's all about identifying the right segments, because they tend to think, okay, my target market are startups from North America. and they end up as one size fits all because it's a huge market with different needs, with different verticals, right? And then they try to, we are not even talking about the details of positioning, they try to be a good fit for all the verticals. And this is how they end up of being one size fits all, right? And at the same time fits nobody. So the next one, I have found that creating a GTM playbook works in theory, but the challenge in my experience comes down to the orchestration of implementation, trying to make strategic choices on the GTM and gaining the marketing, sales, and development resources to commit to a specific launch time is massive undertaking. Getting executive sponsor buy-in plus directors, then managing all the teams to deliver, right? So that's another problem. As I said, they don't get marketing. And for them, whenever you say, I want to launch webinar, they say, okay, that's absolutely fine. So what's the goal of webinar? To sell our product, right? Otherwise, why should we be doing this activity? Makes no sense to them. That's why we need to always educate. That's why we always need to extract our knowledge and come up with actionable programs. When we are developing go-to-market strategy, I believe we'll touch it in a moment, right? We need to come up with exact explanations why we are going to launch specific programs. If you say, okay, we need to refine our positioning or messaging, it doesn't resonate with your executives, just believe me. But if you'll come up with CRM analysis, right, and you'll extract last 10, 20, 30 opportunities that were lost, and then you make a graph of top lost reasons, and then you'll see that among top reasons are statements like, I didn't understand the value of your product and how can I leverage it. This is something that we experienced today with one of the clients when we were analyzing customer interviews, right, Vlad? There was a statement that we don't clearly understand what's the value. Why should I purchase your product? So when you'll show it to executives, then it starts making sense to them. Then you explain, that's why I want to invest, let's say, 20 days to run customer interviews, talk to our customers, collect the insights, and come up with new positioning ideas or messaging ideas. So this is how you could change this shift. Next one is channel selection. Again, so when it comes to channel selection, how most companies are selecting the channels? Let's prospect on LinkedIn. Why LinkedIn? Well, because it's a B2B platform. All leads are on LinkedIn. So what we are going to do on LinkedIn? Well, it's obvious. Let's launch LinkedIn ads. Let's send some emails. Let's buy some automation and just send messages to all possible prospects that we can identify on LinkedIn. This is how the channels are selected. In most cases, whenever I'm talking with companies about the channel selection, the truth is that they have zero ideas and lack of clarity about how their customers are buying, because they never do customer interviews. They never ask, how do you search for product like ours? Where do you ask for, opinion? Where do you ask for feedback, etc.? And then we face the problem, because then, as you can see, for me, it's channel selection. We work with startups who are usually in the earlier stage, so often haven't yet found scalable, reliable channel to market. This means channel selection is often based off light research and gut instinct, or gut feeling, as we call it with Vlad. Next one is knowing which stage you are in the growth cycle, price and strategies. Narrowing the scope of who our ideal customer is our biggest challenge. As our software serves so many verticals and use cases, getting an alignment between board, exec, sales, and marketing about who to target next is painful. Exactly what I mentioned a couple of minutes before, right? So companies say, okay, our market is all healthcare or all tech companies from North America. And if you'll open LinkedIn Sales Navigator and type, you just select North America and then tech companies on LinkedIn, how it's called, Vlad? Computer technology, something like this, right? This vertical.
computer software, and you have several. You have computer software, information technology is another one. Yeah, these are the two main ones. Yeah, these are huge.
We can select these two, and I believe you'll end up with hundreds of thousands companies, right?
For sure.
So
yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so then the next one, look, after the ideal customer profile, I believe each company I work with has their own big challenge, but the one I found to be the most consistently problematic is accuracy of their value proposition. And voila, you see how all these challenges are intertwined. Pro-targeting, problems with ICP, with account list building, with value proposition, with channel selections, right? So all these things are intertwined between themselves, and these are the core elements of go-to-market strategy. So I'm coming back to the craft, and I wanted just to give you the context and share with you some insights that I gained. As you see, that was a practical example of customer interviews or customer research, right? Collecting the insights before this podcast episode. So aside from this, Vlad did additional research last year. So he chatted with almost 200 tech companies, and we combined all these replies, and this is how we mapped out these big groups of challenges and the most common mistakes. So let's come back to the mistakes, right?
Sure. So just wanted to come back to your broad targeting challenge. I had done the search. There are actually in North America 480,000 companies who match that criterion. So you can see why that's not a good idea.
We can even make a quick calculation. If I'm correct, even if you have LinkedIn Sales Navigator, LinkedIn will allow you without banning you from their platform, they will allow you to send maximum 50 messages per day. Am I correct?
I think it's like, it depends on the plan, but let's say 30. Let's say 30.
Okay, so 50. So how many days do you need to prospect this list?
Yeah, I you know what? I think it's actually limited to the whole month. I don't think you have 30 every day, by the way. I think it's like limited. So it's like, you would need to live very, very, very long. And probably most of those companies will go out of business before you start prospecting them. But it's like there's different ways to look at it. But if you go back to that challenge that we spoke about, getting low response rates and then trying to figure out why is that happening, well, there's different reasons, and we spoke about some of them, and we just spoke about this broad targeting, right? And it's simple truth is that you can't be everything to everyone. If you want to go north, you cannot go south at the same time, right? And that is the point, really. I remember, was it he who chases two rabbits catches none? So it's basically all about that. You
that
can't
was my quote on Valencian workshop where we met.
Yes. That's when I first heard it, I think.
Yeah.
Back in 2018, right? Now, maybe it's interesting too, because like this is something that a lot of companies struggle with. And in your research, there was a note about it. Like with our technology, we can support all these different use cases. And, we are pretty much industry agnostic. And it's true. Like you can, in fact, implement your technology to solve different problems. You can implement it in different industries. So Andrei, tell me, why is it then important that you focus on a specific industry or, a specific profile?
But you have already answered that question, because the problem is you won't be able to prospect all the companies. The majority of companies, they don't have resources like Procter & Gamble, Coca-Cola, Apple, Microsoft, etc. Right? That's the first thing. The second one is that if we want to compete with and if we want to grow, we should become the top vendor in our category, in our vertical. So the narrower your focus is, the easier would it be for you to become a natural choice for your vertical. Today I wrote a post about my learnings of running ABM campaigns for 15 years. And I would say the problem in account-based marketing is that if you search for ABM content, in most cases, you'll see that all the tactics where companies, talk, the tactics that companies or vendors are sharing about ABM are limited to run some ads, then reach out. But this is not marketing. The marketing actually is absent. It's account-based sales. Basically, you do some ads, but these ads mean nothing because, as you mentioned, content blindness. Like I could ask you guys, how often do you click display ads or these context ads? In most cases, if these are random products, if this is not something that you, and I'm talking now about B2B solutions. I'm not talking about, the let's say the watches, because I was looking for Daniel Wellington watches. I wanted to buy one, and then they were retargeting me. That's completely another story, right? That's a B2C story. But in B2B, how often do you click, the banners or context ads? I'm not saying, of course, I'm not the best example, but I completely ignore them. I have never bought any product because of the ads. And that's the problem. So, and then but let's pretend you are clicking the ad. So software tracks you. You could open the landing page. You could see the, let's say, the broad value proposition. And then you just, or you might click out of curiosity, because this is what Vlad is doing. He is the worst target for tech companies. He's clicking the ads out of pure curiosity, not just because he wants to buy something. So that's a part of us, right? Being marketers. So then they start retargeting him, and suddenly he gets a message: "Hey Vlad, you spent 30 seconds on our website. Would you like to have a demo call with me?" It's not account-based marketing. Account-based marketing is exactly when you have a narrow focus. It all starts with focusing on one specific vertical. Maybe this is something that we are doing with some of our clients. You can create standalone teams, and I'm calling teams, not marketing and sales. Standalone teams per vertical that have own target, own prospect, own target list of accounts, own value prop, and they are running programs. At the same time, they might have 2, 3 more teams that are doing the same programs, but for different verticals. And then it totally makes sense. Recently, we published a case study about Post-Industria, and we started with them focusing on one vertical. They established the processes, and now they are running the same programs, but with different teams for 2 more verticals. That's the way how ABM scales, right? But the key principles here, you have vertical alignment, your value proposition and positioning is tailored to this specific vertical. Next, you have a very clear ideal customer profile. And this, when I'm talking about ideal customer profile, you have account definition. So you could easily say, okay, not only, the geography or team size or revenue, but you also apply so-called unique criteria, disqualification criteria. Like in that case, we were looking for us, one of the qualification criterion was searching for senior engineers that had in their LinkedIn profile keyword SDK, mobile SDK development, because that was the way how you could identify this. So let's say another example with fintech company that is serving big corporations, helping them to hedge financial risks. So we were looking for CFOs that have in their LinkedIn profile, in their profile description, keywords like they were dealing with hedging, with for financial risk management or currency volatility. We had 3 keywords. That's the way, this is how you can identify the right accounts. And we were searching the buying committee, and that was the way to build a really good list of accounts. Next one, all your campaigns, all your warm-up playbooks should be really personalized, and your content strategy should be personalized to your target job roles. That's the key. So you can educate your buyers. You could answer the questions that matter to them, to this specific vertical. And finally, you need to prospect again. When it comes to account-based marketing, you're not selling to specific companies. So let's say we are not selling to Microsoft or to Apple, but you sell to specific people, the buying committee members, right? You have decision makers, you have champions who might be, let's say in our case at fullfunnel.io, our champions are marketers, basically people who will be working alongside us, right? Working with us on launching these campaigns. So that's the key point. And they have different needs and they have different goals. On the surface, we could say that we help, and this is our, let's say, this is our key unique value proposition. We say that we help B2B tech and service-based companies with high ACV to launch account-based marketing operations and land enterprise sales opportunities. Yeah, but then with marketers, their goals is to get new skills, is to really nail and excel at account-based marketing, and also what they call it, to move the needle, right, Vlad? I remember that was the quote, move the needle in the business. While for executives, it's all about growing revenue. For sales, they don't care about this. They want meetings with strategic decision makers. They want to have logos because then they could say, I close deals with Apple, Microsoft, whatever, basically the big logos, well-known companies in their vertical, right? And then we have blockers. And in our case, blockers could be external marketing agencies that, I don't know, do content marketing, SEO, performance marketing. And they might say, oh no, hold on, guys, don't work with these guys, you know, so we can do, well, basically, we don't believe it makes sense for you. So we need to also get their external buy-in. So it's just a practical example why it totally makes sense. And if you skip the steps, then you just do account-based sales. You don't do account-based marketing. And now if we'll wrap it up and come up with unique summary, if you are doing this stuff and you are doing this proactively, right, you'll become a #1 vendor who makes sure that their target accounts are aware of your value proposition, of your messaging, right, very quickly. In our case, look, it took us, fullfunnel.io is 1-year-old company. We launched it in October 2020 officially, so it's just 1 year. But I'm not going to brag, but if you open LinkedIn, quite often you can see the posts whenever somebody asks who is your go-to-market vendor or go-to-market guys when it comes to account-based marketing, me and Flag are tagged. And that's not, again, I'm not saying this to brag, but this is just a practical outcome of how it might work. The same with our clients. Whenever their target market is looking for a specific product, right, these companies are often being tagged. And that's a particular reason why you should avoid being one size fits all and going towards being the #1 choice on a very narrow, small market.
So if I kind of like go back to my question being, okay, we can serve all these different verticals, we can, you know, solve these different use cases. So why should we bother then targeting? What I hear from you as well, and what we were discussing, what I also hear from people is actually it's just so much easier for you to become relevant, to become the go-to expert, the go-to company in a smaller, sort of a big fish in a smaller pond, right? So that's like one part of it. The second is being able to personalize your approach It's much easier to do that if you have a smaller group. And especially when it comes to the warm-up campaigns, I think this is also very interesting. It's much easier to organize and run a warm-up campaign in a narrow vertical than it is to do it, in a broader one. So I want to just take an example. We did actually, we were working with a company who had a tech solution that could be applied to multiple verticals and use cases. And we were like trying to figure out, so where do we start? And, we were, looking at what kind of case studies that I have and other things. And we figured out, let's start with a very weird vertical, HVAC producers and installers, right? In the Benelux region was the campaign. And it was like weird, like why them? But the result of that campaign was amazing because the warm-up play was doing a kind of a write-up for a specific industry publication about, what's going on in the industry. And we had, during the warm-up play, we had response not response was like 80%. It was like crazy, but we had 30% of the accounts that we contacted were engaged with us in a conversation about these challenges, like the industry challenges. So, but two things happened there. So the first thing that happened is that because you were focused on such a small group, you could be much more relevant to them. You could personalize everything to them. But second, because we spend a lot of time thinking about, like we spend a lot of time, we thought deeply about which market to target. Actually, there was a lot of opportunities also generated there because there were several things happening in that industry, such as, I don't know, like there were, companies going back to office, after COVID. And then, of course, they had to look at their ventilation systems and their ACs and whatnot. So there was like a lot of stuff that was happening in the industry that was driving the need for our clients' tech. And so in other words, you're stacking the odds in your favor, but by selecting a narrow target, but also you can position yourself much better to that target, and you can run warm-up plays that will get a much higher response if you do it so narrowly. And yeah, I think maybe we can also talk about some of the other mistakes that we saw in this research.
Let's touch the questions first.
Okay, yeah,
after the
that's
mistakes.
a good idea.
Hasita, if you'd like to jump in, feel free to switch on your camera and join the discussion. Meanwhile, I will read your question. So the rationale for ads is often given as subconscious impressions. Does this matter at all in B2B? I have also heard that if I have a good creative, then people will click. Wondering, yes, what are your thoughts? I will share with you my thoughts. So first of all, you can do creative ads, and I will give you two precise examples. But before I will share them, keep in mind one thing, that if you'll share it publicly, then lots of people will be copying it, and then this won't perform as that well. So I will give you one example. A good friend of mine, Ricardo, who is working as a head of performance marketing at Upthrust in Belgium, he tried a nice hack. So basically, he installed LinkedIn tracker, and he performed the now it's called conversational ads, but this was retargeting. So whenever you visit, let's say, his website, he did it not for himself, not for his company, but for one of their clients. So he sent a message, say, hey, so I saw that you visited our website, but you left it without saying hello. And basically, this is what our company is doing. And then they had different messages based on the verticals, saying that, let's say, for companies like yours, we help with this and that. Would you like to learn more? If yes, here is a link to my calendar. And that worked really well in the beginning until lots of companies started to copy this tactic. And then it started to underperform. Next one, you could do really good job with creative display ads. I'm not saying that display ads are not working at all, but the problem is that you need to have a support from your executives and a good budget. You know how expensive LinkedIn ads are, right? And if you want to narrow the target, if you want to target specific people, and you need to create this creative banner. There was a really nice campaign done by one vendor. I forgot. I know that it's sales software, but I forgot if it was gone. Maybe I'm missing. I'm not sure if it was gone. Doesn't matter. But what they did is basically for a specific market, a specific vertical, they made different banners with a portrait or headshot of one of the SDRs. And let's say you visited Gong, whatever, their website. Then they were targeting you with this banner. The girl was waving and she said something like, hey, it's me, I don't know, Ashley from Gong, for example. So would love to meet you. Next one. So in 3 days, then the same headshot, and there was another message saying it's Ashley again. So I still looking whatever, you know, to grow revenue, to close more deals, etc. And then another portrait, she is staying, you know, with like near the stand of well-known logo saying that these companies already closed more deals. And then finally the last one was like, would you like, again, she is waving and saying, would you like me to help you to close more deals, learn more, something like this. That was very creative, and in this case it works, right? But I believe it was very, very expensive, and I really doubt that lots of companies will support it because of the reasons we mentioned today. Linear mindset, not everybody is willing to invest into creative campaigns, right? And that would be really problematic. But if you'd like to run just generic ads, then I honestly, I doubt it.
I think you touched on a point that we started from, right? We started from this framework of ROI taxes, right? And just very quickly sharing it again, we talked about the ads, we talked about a lot of response rate, and there's some reasons, some root mistakes that are making, that are causing these challenges to appear, right? And you just touched upon a few of them. So I think if you don't have a one-size-fits-all position, so if you're targeting narrowly and you know these are good accounts, you know that they have maybe, like in the case of Ricardo, they have visited your website, you know, there was some engagement. You're not positioning in a one-size-fits-all, you're like having these personalized messages for that vertical, for that role, whatever, right? If you are then running warm-up programs. So if you're doing all these things, so it's not like the ads themselves, there's something wrong with them, or like the outreach or cold email, well, let's say, you know, well, cold email, that there's something wrong with that, but it is exactly these root mistakes, or if you flip them on the other side, it's the elements, the key elements of the strategy. If they're in place, if you're not making these mistakes, then these approaches can work. So I don't think it's so much like about the channel, about whether you're using just the ads, you're using, I think ads can play a role if all the elements are done correctly.
Great one. Thank you, Vlad. Any other questions, guys? Feel free to ask in the chat or just switch on your camera and we can touch them. While guys are typing, I suggest you to nail the key elements of go-to-market strategy. So let's make it clear. I know that there are lots of talks about marketing strategy, but also what is fine, probably I need to find this. If we'll open Wikipedia, so let me do this experiment for you, because I was recently writing an article about marketing strategy, and I really laughed when I searched on Wikipedia for the marketing strategy. Just a second, yeah. So according to Wikipedia, marketing strategy is a process that can allow an organization to concentrate its limited resources on the greatest opportunities to increase sales and achieve a sustainable competitive advantage. So strategic planning involves an analysis of the company's strategic initial situation prior to the formulation, evaluation, and selection of competitive position that contributes to company's goals and marketing objectives. So my question is, if you hear this definition, do you understand what is marketing strategy? For me, to be honest, I try to understand, even with my 15 years background, I try to understand what do they mean, but still it's really vague, right? So it's like we used to call it high level fluff, sorry. So let's touch the go-to-market strategy, what it is, and the core elements. And I believe that would be a fantastic summary of today's episode.
All right. So to put it then simply in a more actionable definition, basically what marketing strategy is it outlines a way for you to get from the point A, where you are, to the point B, where you want to be, point A being like the current indicators in terms of like revenue, sales, market penetration, whatever your goals are, to the point B. Point B could be, I don't know, increase sales by 30%, double next year. Now, this is basically what it is. So you need to outline how am I going to get from A to B using the resources that I have. So you're using the resources that I have, or what resources do I need? So marketing budget, the team, and these kind of resources. And what are the key elements of a strategy? And we spoke about many of them. The first one is basically the target markets. What are the most promising segments and verticals that you want to focus on? Remember, you cannot prospect everybody. There are 480,000 tech companies in North America. They can't all be your target. So how do you stack the odds in your favor? Where do you have the most business today? What is the best opportunity? This is the first step. The next one is to define the ideal customer profile. We spoke a lot about it. And really what it is just, again, I always like to look back at the definition. It's ideal customers. So it means that you're not basing this on the most common denominator between your customers, but that you're basing that on your best customers, right? From the target market that you want to go after. It's based on, so it's ideal, so best customers, it's customers. So you're basing that on your existing customers. So you're going back and you're talking to your customers to really figure out why are they buying from you? How are they buying? And, who is involved in that process, and understanding like what value do they get from you and what is shared, what is common, so that you can basically, the idea is you want to replicate those best customers, right? And ideal customer profile, and profile is the collection of all these attributes, right? So that's the next part. So the target market, ideal customer profile, then it is actually selection and disqualification criteria, and Andrei spoke about it. So it's not just about understanding how your customers are buying and which verticals, but you want to go to a level of detail. You remember the examples that Andrei gave. People who work in our ideal customer profiles will have, mobile SDK in their profile as a keyword. Or, there will be like very specific criteria that make one account be a good fit or not a good fit for you. We just, had a workshop, a go-to-market workshop with one of our clients. And for them, it's extremely important that their target has at least that they have salespeople in at least 3 or 4 big regions of the world, because that's where they're best at. They're best at managing this multiple multinational situation, right? And then positioning and value proposition, that's another key element of the strategy. So why, basically answering the question, is for that one very specific type of customer, for that target, why are you different and how are you different and worth buying? In other words, is obviously like, why should they choose you and not your competitors? And because whatever marketing that you do, whatever awareness that you're creating, if I perceive you as a commodity vendor, if I just think, CR, whatever, CRM, well, I know where to find them. I can just go on G2 Crowd and start listing all the CRM system or whatever, like a coaching company or whatever you're providing, right? People will just say, why should I, care about it now? If I need you, I know where to find you. Then the buyer's journey. So how does your buying committee, because at the end you're selling not to just one person within a company, but you will have to convince, or you have to sell to multiple buyers, and we all know that. How do they discover, evaluate, and purchase a product or a service like yours? And obviously, on the flip side of it is, how are you going to influence those buyers? Like, what kind of actions and content will you need to influence those buyers? And now we are actually starting to put together the plan, right? So we are already starting to understand where the buyers are. We spoke about channels. We're starting to understand what their goals, challenges, problems are, what their objections are. We start to understand how they're buying, their purchase criteria, etc. So we can now start thinking about also the kind of content that we will need to be able to influence that process, and what kind of activities we can do too. So we are starting to build that plan, right? And then that's the part, that's the next key element. That's basically priority channels, but also thought leaders, partners, communities that are in that industry that you can use to influence, to reach and influence the buyers, right? What are the key content topics that you need to be talking about and creating content on? And how are you going to, what are the basically campaigns that you're going to run in order to get from A to B, and finally, like all together, put in a plan that also outlines what are the kind of resources, what is the technology stack, what are the resources that you will need to basically achieve the goals that you're after. I think these are the key elements of an effective B2B marketing strategy, Andrei.
Thank you so much. Question to you guys: how did you find this episode? Was it valuable? Was it insightful? Just share with us your thoughts, your feedback in a Zoom chat. And a quick probably question from me, or request, what I will call it. If you are iTunes users, please follow the link I shared and just leave us a review or whatever. Just rate the podcast, give us 5 stars. That would be fantastic. And for me, it was a pleasure to hang out with you for another 50 minutes. As you see, we are doing this consistently in the last couple of months. Next week, unfortunately, we won't host a live session because of my birthday, so sorry for this. But in December, we have fantastic guests for you. We'll have Rand Fishkin from Spark Toro, ex-Moz. We'll have April Dunford, who is known as Queen of Positioning, right? She was on our Full Funnel Summit. And we'll host with Vlad a webinar not webinar. We don't like webinars. It would be a practical workshop on developing a go-to-market strategy. So today we chatted about the challenges, and it was like, let's say, more conversational. In December, we'll come up with a practical framework that you could use step by step on how we are working on the elements that Vlad mentioned. So stay tuned. Thanks a lot for great questions, for engagement, for consistently coming and supporting us. Believe me, it means a lot to us. So lots of upcoming great events are coming. So stay tuned and have a fantastic day. Cheers.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.